Hello everyone, this is a step-by-step tutorial of how to make a lightning animation effect in Desmos. Basically, we're going to be making a bunch of lists, we're going to make some recursive functions, we're going to make some tables and connect the dots, we're going to change the color, and those are the main things, and we're going to press play and watch it animate. Alright, so I'm going to make this from scratch. The first thing I always do when I'm making a Desmos project is to make some folders to keep things in. I'm going to need some recursive functions here. I'm going to need some lists. I'm going to need some tables. I'm going to need some colors. Those are the basic things that I need, and I'll probably press play on the top here. And I will bring that up top, and I will probably press play on n equals 0 for now, and I'm going to press play on that later and make it play. So we won't worry about the n for now. Let's start with the recursive function. In a recursive function, I will call it f of n because I'm using n up there. F of n equals f of n minus 1, which means it's going to take whatever went previously in the sequence or the function, and it says here add a base case. I like to add f of 0 instead of f of 1, so I'm going to have it start at 0, and my f will be my x direction, my first x direction. So I want it to start at 0, and I want it to add on a number, a random number, and a random number generator is like that. But I want it to pick a random number in a list, so I'm going to use these brackets here. And I want it to pick a random number between -1, 0, and 1. I want it to pick between those three ones. Okay, so if I check out f of 1, it made 1. If I make f of 2, it also stayed at 1. Maybe I'll have it be f of n. Okay, and I'll have it go from 0 to 20, my ends, and I'm going to do a step of 1 because I want it to go up by ones and not have any numbers in between. So as this goes up, you can see here that it's cycling between 0, -1, 0, -1. It went up to 2, went up to 4, went back to 3. It's going to move like that. Okay, and I'm going to name a g of n. I'm going to do the same exact thing for g of n equals g of n minus 1. I'm going to add a base case, the starting point here, and I'm going to have it start at 0 as well. And I'm going to have it, because I'm in the y direction, I only want the lightning to go down because that's kind of how lightning works, so I'm not going to include that 1 value. So I'm going to go a random number from a list, and the list is going to be the values -1 and 0. And we might alter these lists to get a different effect, but that's kind of what I want. I want it to go left and right a bit and stay the same, and I want it to go down and stay the same as well. Okay, now I'm going to create a table. Let's see if I can create a table here. Okay, I'm just going to put that in my table, and instead of x1 and y1, I'm going to say f of n and y of n. And in my case, I probably want to, it doesn't like that. So that's where I'm going to set up a list here. And I'm going to bring it into lists. And I'm going to set it as list1. And list1 is going to be equal to all the numbers from 0 to all the whole numbers between 0 and n. So in this case, n is 0. But this is why folders are good, because I can close some of these. If n goes up, it becomes all the numbers between 0 and 20. For example, there's 21 elements in this list because we started at 0. So starting at 1 would be 20. Okay, that looks good. So now instead of f of n and, I did y of n. I needed g of n anyway. It still doesn't really like it. I'm going to do g of L1 and g of L1 here. And you can see that as I increase my value, it's going to add new values. And look at these dots here. these dots are going to be what I'm going to connect to make the lightning. So now all I have to do is click the gear button and then click that and click lines to connect the dots. Okay, so here's my basic lightning. Now for my lightning, I don't really want the dots to show up, so I went back to the gear. And I changed the points to have a 0 there, or 0 thickness there. And anything else? Black is fine for now. We're going to define a new white color later, but that looks fine for now. Now I'm going to change this to be maybe up to 50, see what happens. And now when I press play, so as I scroll up, all right, I have this basic lightning thing. Now is where I start to mess with it. So now when I press play, I have it growing as lightning. You can see it kind of looks like lightning, but maybe not amazing. It's all right. And you can see my table growing and shrinking as my numbers increase and decrease. That's fine. Now I'm going to mess a little bit with my recursive functions. And I can also click this randomize button to change my lightning and see how, in general, if I like what that looks like. I think it looks all right. I think maybe there should be more movement left to right. Yeah, I'm going to introduce a -2 value there. And a +2 value, and maybe a -2 value here. Oh, that's 3. That's looking. Yeah, that looks pretty good like that. That kind of looks like lightning. All right, and now I can grow and shrink my lightning. Awesome. That looks pretty good. And now I want to have it branch a little bit. So I'm going to define some more recursive functions. I'm going to define a new one that will branch maybe at this point at 521. Now 521 on here, if I show all of these, 5-21 happens around here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. When n equals 16, I want it to happen. So I'm going to define a new function, h of n equals h of n minus 1. And I want that same thing to happen where I have a random number. And this is going to be in the x direction. So I'll start it how I did before. Maybe I want to do that in the x direction. Oop. Okay, and then it needs me to add a base case. And instead of this, I'm going to have it start at f of 16, which in this case should be that point that I want. And I'll do hi of n equals I of n minus 1. I'm just going by the alphabet just because I find that easy, but you could do whatever you want. And in this case, I'm going to have it cycle between -1 and 0. And we need a base case. And in this case, I'll have my I of 0 be g of 16. We'll see how that works. Okay, and then I'm going to need a new table. So all the branches is just going to be another one of these. So I'm just going to do one branching for this video, but obviously you can add more if you want to, but you probably, it gets a little complicated the more branching you do. H1, that's not right. Oop. Okay, for now I'll keep it at list 1. And hi of L1. Okay, and now I have all these points. You can see it started right at that point that I wanted, 5, -21. And I will change the points to be black. I want to connect the dots, and I want to take away the points. Okay, now we have some lightning. So when I branch it, I want it to write more. So I'm actually going to go back up to my initial recursive functions. And instead of having my x values go -1, 0, 1, I'm going to add a 2 to it. Oh, you see it already branches well over there. Yeah, it looks good already. Maybe I'll add another 2. That branches a little too much. Maybe I'll add another 1 and a 2. That looks good. Okay. That looks nice already. So now what's going to happen when I press play? I'm going to have a problem, I think. Yeah, so it doesn't connect nicely, and that's because it also starts building at n equals 1. So we have a slight problem. This is why it gets more complicated the more connections you make. So, but what's nice about this is I can still just refresh it, and it will make different lightning that branches at that one point. I think it looks pretty good how it is. Yeah, that looks nice. That looks like lightning to me. Okay, so let's fix the animation effect real quick. Instead of it based off of this list, I probably need a new list. And so I'm going to make it to the max of n minus 16 because I don't want it to grow too big, and 0. And let's see what happens there. Okay, that seems to have worked. Basically, what I've done here by going from 0 to the max of 0 and n minus 16 is that right now we just have a list with 0. But as it grows, it's going to take the maximum number between 0 and n equals 16. So until n gets to 16, it's going to still take the maximum value of 0, because right now if n is 6, we have 6 minus 16, which is negative 10. And so it won't take the maximum of those two. So now, once we get to 16, once we get to 17, let me close the tables. Once we get to 17, now we start adding in and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it should stop there. And that seems pretty good. Now, my one problem is that I have some dots there. I don't like that it starts with dots. Okay, to take the dots out, what I'm going to do is instead of starting at the beginning, we're going to start at 1 before, so that first point there becomes undefined because it starts at n equals 0. And so if right now we're trying to start at n equals negative 1, because right now n equals 0, we're taking subtracting 1 for that. It's going to get negative 1, so there's nothing happening in our functions. But now, once it starts growing, we don't have that dot anymore. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me just refresh it. Oh, that looks better already. Oh, that branching looks really nice. Okay, that looks good. I think that looks like lightning to me. So now I'm going to have it play over and over again from the beginning. I'm going to make it go a little faster. The next thing we want to do is make the quote-unquote night sky. I'm going to just define a point at 0, negative 20. So right there. I'm going to make it black, and I'm going to make it just a really big circle. So I'm going to make it black, and I'm going to make the circle like 100. And so that's going to get bigger and bigger. 1,000 looks good already. Oh, and I'm going to make it a square because that's going to look better. Okay, so that looks like the night sky to me. Now, I need to make the lightning white. So I'm going to set a new color. And to do my colors, I like to do C1 for my first color. And I like to use RGB, but you can use HSV. Now 0, 0, 0 is going to be black. But I want white, and that's going to be 255, 255, 255. So that's white. And now I'm going to change my tables. I'm going to change the colors by doing the gear and changing that to my new color I just defined. Oh no, it's still not showing up. So what we need to do is do in front of everything. And now it will show up. All right, this is looking very promising, like the night sky. Okay, awesome. The last thing I want to do is have it fade out because real lightning in the sky fades out after. To do that, what I'm going to do is, instead of my colors be like this, I'm going to set up a new equation here. I'm going to set up a new equation here. To do this, I'm going to set a new variable up, and I'm going to call it t. And t is going to, actually n is going to follow what t is doing. But n is going to stop, or the minimum, n is going to stop at 50. So it's going to be whatever t is, and as t grows, it's going to get to 50 and stop. So it's going to look like that. It's going to stop once it gets to 50 here. T is going to equal 0, and we will do the same thing where we do a step of 1, go from 0 to 60. Okay, same thing should happen. Okay, so it works. So at 50, it just stays lightning. So I'm going to have it fade out once it gets to 50. To do that, I'm going to use the point slope form of a line to have this happen. What's going to happen is that I want it to go down once it gets to 255. So I'm going to do my slope of my line is going to be 255 divided by, and in this case, I want it to happen over the course of 10. So that's going to be my slope. And then I have, I want it to happen at 50. So I'm going to do t minus 50. Okay. And then that doesn't like it. Oh, not RGB. If I make this C0, and I make all of these C0 now, you can see that it's going to stay white because as long as my value is 255 or over, it's going to stay at 255. Now, as t gets bigger, once it hits 50 here, it should finally turn to black like that. Okay, so it stays white and then turns to black. Let me turn the night sky back on and press play. And we have our desired effect. Okay, so I made the animation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Like the video if you liked it. Give me a follow if you enjoyed this. Leave a comment if you have any other tutorial ideas where I could do a longer tutorial like this, where I show the whole screen and show every single step. I'm happy to do that. I'm thinking in the future of making one like your teacher gave you a Desmos art assignment where you had to use only linear equations. How could you make art with only linear equations? And I go ahead and make that and show you my steps along the way. So that's my idea, but let me know if you have any ideas, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.